Hey, Bulls and Bears. Well, the working class slash middle class continues to get squashed. We're going to talk about the emergency 401k withdrawals and more. Hey, everybody, you're watching Bull, Boom, Bear, Bust. As always, back with another dose of economic reality. So, here's something that we've spoken about on this channel several times. And each time the new report comes out, the trend is it's getting worse, it's getting worse, it's getting worse. Even after all the stimulus programs, the trillions of dollars created out of thin air, the paycheck protection programs, the stimulus programs, the stimulus checks, the protection programs from evictions, moratoriums, all these things, people are getting in worse and worse financial trouble. Let's go ahead and start right here. This is out of WTOP. And what do we see here? We see more retired Americans are unretiring, and many worry about age discrimination. So we're going to get into the numbers here on this, but this is pretty sad that we have this worsening crisis where people have to go back to work. People that are working one job have to take on a second job and a third job. And this is bad. And if you're in your 60s, 70s, maybe even 80s, and you have to go find a job somewhere, you might get discriminated against based on your age. And if you're in a financial struggle, you're between a rock and a hard place, right? So this is not fun to see what's happening here. But here's the details on it here. A resume builder survey of currently retired Americans found that 12% expect to come out of retirement in 2024. The top reasons are inflation and the higher cost of living. Combating boredom was also cited by some. Okay, well, boredom's always been around. So I don't think the increase is because of boredom. The increase has to be what's changing. What's changing a lot is the cost of living, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. Again, boredom is not anything that's new. Boredom's been around since who knows how many decades, how many hundreds of years has boredom been around? Thousands of years, millions of years. Have humans been alive that long? I don't know. Different channel, different topic. Folks, this is not good. We're told inflation was easing. Is it true? Is inflation easing? No, we have to see a negative number for inflation to ease or for the cost of living to actually come down. What they're saying is easing is inflation still going up or still getting worse, just at a slower pace compared to previous quarters or previous years. And we saw it as high as what the CPI was 8% or something like between 7 and 8% at one point. So even 5%, which is not good, they can still say, oh, it's getting better. So inflation's easing. People hear that and they say, oh, the cost of living's coming down. No, the cost of living's still going up. It's just not going up as fast. So then they paint that as a positive thing. People hear that on the news and on the business channels and they say, oh, everything's going to be fine. Everything is going to turn out fine. Let me go ahead and spend more money and swipe my credit card and take on more debt because sunnier days are ahead. I think that's what a lot of people might be, what they might be doing. They might be thinking about, what's being told or what's being reported as far as inflation and saying, okay, better days are down the road, so I'm going to go ahead and spend, and everything's going to be fine here. 2/3 of those expecting to re-enter the workforce next year said they fear age bias will affect their job prospects. Absolutely. The older you are, the more tired you get, usually, not always. I've seen some very out of shape teenagers that get tired very quickly. So there could be a 70-year-old, 80-year-old in better shape than a teenager, right? I've seen some pretty good in shape um, senior citizens. To at least get in the door, experts say don't let your resume make you look outdated. Wow. So this is interesting that we even have to talk about this. Unfortunately, it's happening. So that situation got worse. With all the money printing didn't fix it. Imagine that. All the trillions of dollars in new debt, but approaching $34 trillion in national debt now. And these problems aren't being fixed. Not only are they not being fixed, they're getting worse. But yet people still think that more spending packages and stimulus programs and financial programs are going to fix this. It's not going to fix it. Something else here just got worse. Imagine my surprise. Imagine my shock here. 401k balances are down. Last resort hardships are up. And you might say, JJ, we know you talked about this. Yeah, that was the second quarter. The third quarter numbers are out, and it got worse from the second quarter to the third quarter. So if some of this sounds familiar, you say I'm just repeating the news. No, these are all new reports. Some of these come out each month. Some news comes out each quarter. Some news comes out just annually. But we have to report on it as we see things change, and I wish I could say it's getting better. The average 401k balance fell 4% in the third quarter, while withdrawals and loans rose. Most financial experts advise against rating 401k accounts, of course. They want you to keep your money in the 401k. That way, Fidelity and the brokers, they can use your money to invest. In times of turmoil, here's what you need to know before tapping your retirement savings. People are forced to tap their retirement savings. I don't think they have a choice. I think they have to do this just to keep their head above water. The average 401k balance fell 4% to $107,700 in the third quarter, due in part to volatile market conditions. According to a recent report by Fidelity, the nation's largest provider of 401k plans, the financial services firm handles more than 35 million retirement accounts. So the largest retirement account firm is reporting that balances are dropping and 401k emergency withdrawals are increasing. The average balance was down nearly 4% from the second quarter. So there you go. So much for the cost of living coming down, for quote unquote economic recovery. Now, it doesn't mean you can't make money. In our previous reports, we talked about, how I'm investing and good ways to make money. Even during these times, there's times to make money. I talked about a stock, was it in September or October, a gold stock, gold mining, and it's up 33%. And I had a link on there and everything. So congratulations on the people that jumped on that. We're up 33% on that. So I invest when it's going to be an obvious win, right? I do pretty good with investing, and I don't invest a lot. And I think that's the key. People sometimes they feel like they have to invest all the time or have to be invested in something at every moment. Sometimes it's best not to invest and just to sit back and kind of take things in and see what's happening. We see gold's on the uptrend now. It had a big surge up, it dropped back down. Of course, volatility is always going to happen, but when you look at the long term, I think we're going to see more upside for gold and silver. As I am reading this, we have gold still holding above 2000 at $2,052. Of course, it'll change by the time this video gets published and by the time you click the watch. Silver dropped under $25. It's $24.89, but it's up about 5% in just a couple weeks here. So that's looking very, very good. We have 10-year bond is dropping down to 4.288%. Remember, we got up over 5% for a brief period, and that's going to mean lower mortgage rates with that dropping. And you have to ask yourself, who has the big pockets to go in and buy up this debt to push these yields lower? I think we all know it's the money printer guys, money printer go burr. And this is going to keep the housing bubble inflated for longer. It doesn't mean that it's not going to deflate at some point. That is slowly deflating, but you can see they're doing a lot to keep this bubble inflated. Why would they want to keep the housing market inflated at this point? Well, let's see what happens next year, November. We have that coming up, and we know that housing is basically an integral part of the economy. When housing goes down, the entire economy goes down with it. We're already seeing a lot of people employed in real estate having to find new jobs. The loan officers, look at all the layoffs at the banks and the mortgage companies, the appraisers, the underwriters. So you're going to see the home improvement stores, all the things that are tied to real estate. These people are going to have to go out and find new jobs. And if they can't find a full-time job, they might have to get 2, 3 part-time jobs. So it's a sad story. They're going to continue to raid their 401k accounts. And you're going to see 401ks continue to drop with emergency withdrawals. You're going to see more people unretiring. And when the fourth quarter comes out, when the numbers come out for the fourth quarter, which will be January, we'll report on it. And I think things are going to improve. Quiz. Let me know down below. Do you think things are going to improve from the third quarter to the fourth quarter? Is inflation coming down? So if it is, if you believe that, then things should improve. So we'll find out in the first quarter of 2024 what happened in the fourth quarter of 2023. And my bet is my chips are on the worsening side of things, that it's going to get worse. All right, let's get into some other news here, and wanted to touch on this here. And I want to talk about something that Warren Buffett said. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Warren Buffett. Some people say he's the greatest investor of all time. I think he has a lot of connections, and I think he's got the inside track, if you know what I mean. So I don't really think he's that much of a genius. A lot of the things he says are pretty much common sense: buy low, sell high. The investments that he chooses, the sectors that he chooses are pretty much no brainers. But here's something he said. I've got to agree with him here. Talking about the deficit, quote, I could end the deficit. He's talking about the U.S. Trade deficit here in 5 minutes. You just pass a law that says anytime there's a deficit of more than 3% of GDP, all sitting members of Congress are ineligible for re-election. But guess what? Unquote, by the way. Guess what? The law has to be passed by Congress. You think they're going to vote for their own um, ending of their career? Very unlikely. It's making rounds now because of all the fiscal irresponsibility that's happening. So, do you agree with what Warren Buffett had to say? Pretty interesting, anyways. Something that'll never happen, obviously, but at least he said something that I agree with. All right, people, let's transition a little bit here. I've got a couple more stories and topics I want to cover here. This is something that kind of caught my attention here. Woman plans to pay off kids' student loans after winning $25 million Massachusetts lottery prize. So, a couple things I want to get out of this here. Imagine paying off your kids' student loans, and maybe it's a few $1,000s, maybe it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, depends on how long they stayed in school and what their major was. But what if you paid it off and then all of a sudden the debt got forgiven for everyone else? Wouldn't you feel like a chump? Well, I guess if you had 25 million, it wouldn't make that big of a deal, right? Well, think again. Take a look at this. 25 million, according to Massachusetts lottery, the winner chose to take her winnings as a one-time payment. So if you don't want to get paid out in installments, if you just want a lump sum all at once, right away, 16 million. So you've already lost, what, about $8-9 million. So there you go. And that's before taxes. How much is she going to have left after taxes out of that $16 million? I've heard that it's pretty high. I've heard even 50% in some cases. I'm not sure. I think that was California. So after a $25 million winning, she might only be 8 or 9 million, which is still a lot of money. But with the cost of living nowadays, it may not be something she can even retire on, depending on how much you like to spend money. She bought a ticket a few weeks ago from Baker Street Market in West Roxbury, a neighborhood in Boston. She stored it in a secured place before taking a trip to Aruba. Well, she already had money to travel with, so the store will also get a $50,000 bonus for selling the ticket. Wow, this isn't the first time that this person has won a lottery. In 2006, she won $1 million prize. So someone that already had won $1 million prize in 2006 now wins $25 million. Wow, there's a pretty interesting event, wouldn't you agree? All right, here's something else I wanted to get into today, though. Let me just find this article. We have a lot of news coming out here about attempts of power grid attacks here, and this is the water supply here recently. Pennsylvania water facility hit by Iran-linked hackers. U.S. Israel warn of Iranian-linked cyber attacks on water systems. Federal government investigating multiple attacks of U.S. water utilities. And these are all just in the past few days, up to a week here. So will the whole system come down? Will we see a hack where the banking system goes down? Maybe it's utilities, maybe it's electricity. Electricity goes down, not good, because the internet's not available. And everything runs off the internet now. You'll have no supplies at the stores. If something like this happens, it could be Mad Max, whether it's the internet going down, the electricity going down, the grid, the banking system going down. All these things, any one of these things, could lead to pretty desperate scenario. So we have to focus on that. I'd say have some emergency funds out of the bank, food, water, essentials, and be ready for something crazy like that. Just think 2020 with 2024 right around the corner. And, there's a lot of things that could hit the fan. So I'm not telling you exactly what's going to happen, but I just have a feeling. I have a feeling something big is going to go down. Now, have I been saying that for a while? Well, yeah, I've always had it in the back of my mind, but think about again 2020, 2024, what happens in both of these years, and I think you know where I'm headed, right? So, everybody, thanks for watching this. Please keep stacking. Please talk to your friends, your family about these things, about what's really happening with the economy. Maybe even point them over to this channel and this video, my videos. That would be awesome. Thanks everybody for being here. We're going to wrap this one up. As always, keep stacking, and we'll see everybody very soon. Bulls and Bears, I'm out of here. Peace.